Eric, Carol, flirting with realities. Yeehaw!
Yeehaw! I feel like the Dukes of Hazzard today.
Yeah, it was a good Dukes of Hazzard. I mean, I just reeled everybody in, so now if you just watch that, you're gonna be like, "What is going on? These people are weird."
Yeah, we have to check you out, right?
Yeah, we are weird. Everything we talk about is pretty strange, I think, to most people. And the people who don't think it's strange, I think, are strange.
There are people.
Yeah. So what's been happening in your life, Carol?
I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. And yeah.
And by the way, if you watched our last episode, we talked about how I had a cold.
Yeah.
And how Carol wasn't going to get it because her
I
paradigm and her immune system. So anyway, I think it was the next day she got the cold.
It wasn't the next day.
Well, I was pretty close. Because I think it was threatening you, and you're like, I've got the power of the mind, and I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
And then you woke up the next morning, you're like, look at that.
That's so happy.
By the way, like our microphones were dead. We don't know if they're dead right now, so if we cut, it'll be because we're charging our microphones. Super important to have good microphones.
Yes. Audio is crucial.
Yeah.
What's up with you, Eric?
What with me? Well, I still have this cold. It hasn't gone away. It's been drawn out, and I mean, just being honest, it's been depressing, and it's just been like, ugh. I don't know anybody that's super happy when they get a cold.
Yeah, that's not my favorite thing.
Yeah, and that's not me. I haven't been super happy last week because I just been like just blowing my nose and coughing and like sneezing and just blah, no motivation. Like getting out of bed is difficult because I'm so tired. It just hasn't been my best week. But I'm struggling through, I try a little bit at least to fight the good fight,
You get up every day and do what you were gonna do.
I do. I mean, it's at a percentage of my
Capacity.
my normal, yeah. And but I think that actually like leads us into like what we wanted to talk tonight, right? About just about trying, isn't it, or doing hard things?
Doing hard things.
But isn't that just what is doing hard things? Is that trying? Is that like having a cold and being like, okay, I'm gonna do something though, instead of just like laying there and.
Yeah, it's like when I left the other day and I said it builds character when I wasn't feeling well. Because, yes, one, it's empowering when you get through something that's hard, right? So it's a way to feel empowered. You build trust with yourself because you show yourself what you're capable of when you do hard things.
Yeah, and I guess like what I'm thinking about is I'm thinking like if you don't. Like if you're super easy on yourself and you're like, oh, I have a little sniffle, and so if I'd have stayed in bed this whole week, that's depressing.
Yeah.
That's where depression like, because if I don't feel good and I'm a little bit depressed right now because I don't feel good, laying in bed and being totally worthless is 1,000 times worse.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's also life, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Well, it's life. Like if you don't try, that's depressing.
Yeah.
And the harder you try, like the happier you probably are. But this goes back to our angel devil idea of the devil in your head. Check out podcast number 1 if you haven't seen. But the devil in your head's like, hey, you're sick. Take it easy.
Stay in bed.
Yeah, just take
you don't need to get out of bed.
Man, you don't have to try.
No, you need to get better.
But that devil wants you to be depressed. It wants you to go backwards, but that's regular life too. Is that devil's like, hey man, like you work today. You really don't have to do the dishes. You don't have to clean up. You don't have to say nice things to your wife. You did a lot. You did enough. And that's kind of what that thought process is. And
I also think there's a balance with that sometimes it's okay to leave a dish or two as long as you don't let it.
yeah, okay. So I think a good example is working out, because I think that's a good one to say, well, am I being a bitch or am I actually tired? So how do you figure that out for yourself? Do you have rules or do you have criteria that determines that?
Well, for me, working out is um like I'm not going to double up on not working out for a long length of time, so I have a limit. Well, unless I have like I'm really sick. So a cold, I don't consider myself really sick. I feel like you can work out with a cold.
Actually, a lot of times, don't you feel better if you work out during a cold?
Yes.
I always did.
However, I mean, I may have to gauge why I'm working out, like maybe this was a mistake. And I know my body enough
Yeah.
to know if I need to rest. And I think that can be really a hard place to get to because I used to not. And I used to just go. I told you I was really sick for a year and I just kept running to the point I would collapse because I refused to not work out. So I think you can go too far the other way too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, I guess that's interesting to think about, because I think about like just me, who I am, and my mentality. Sometimes I feel like I am lazy and tired, being a bitch, but I don't know if that's true. I would say almost every time I feel like that, maybe I should take a day off.
I mean, I have to agree with you because you're someone who constantly does a lot. And I mean, there are times that you actually do need to rest.
Yeah.
And it is a fine balance of figuring that out when you're ill or injured. I know for me, injuries are hard because I want to go. And like the best thing maybe to do is kind of rest it a little bit. And you have to find that fine line of, am I supposed to rest it or am I supposed to move it? Like when you hurt your groin, the smart thing to do was quit jujitsu, but it's a hard thing to decide.
But that's like the opposite direction. Like if I injure myself, I'm not smart enough to stop.
Yeah,
It doesn't stop me from stopping.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the tiredness and the tiredness and the fatigue is what gets me. Like, it's motivation, but I mean, how many times have you felt that way and then you go work out and you're like, so glad. I mean, that was me today. I'm tired and I feel like crap. I just woke up feeling like crap, and I went on a hike, and the hike made me feel way better.
Well, I think this is one thing my parents taught me, and I taught my kids. If you're sick, you need to try and go to school. I'll come get you if you can't make it, but you got to at least try, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the whole thing my parents taught me is because maybe once you get up and you get moving, you'll feel better. And probably 8 times out of 10 you do, and you finish the day. And then there's some times where you're like, Mom, no, I need to come home. It's not getting any better. In fact, it's getting worse.
Well, that's a great way to get a kid to not fake it either, because you have to go to school either way. Once you're there, then
Yeah,
you're
I
there.
mean, my parents did that to me. I did it to my kids. And to me, if you at least try, most of the time, like if you're faking, you're probably going to forget about it
Yeah,
and continue your day at school. But
yeah,
yeah, just at least try. You can have a half-ass workout and just be like, okay, I did it.
yeah. Well, and sometimes so that's working out, but what about doing hard things? Isn't it all about uh
Mind over matter.
well, no, not doing hard things is all about avoiding pain, right? It's pain, some
I
sort of
think
pain.
so. I think it's feeling discomfort and going, I don't like the way this feels. I'm not pressing forward.
Well, maybe not even pressing forward, but I'm going to run away and never do this again. Never
Yeah.
going to feel this way again,
Yeah.
right? But if you have that mentality, you're not going to be successful. It's just it's automatic. Like you can't. It's like the quote I was telling you about today. It said, if you are not willing to feel like a fool and look like a fool in front of everybody, you will never be a master of a trade or of an idea, because anytime you start anything, you're the newest person there, and you're the dumbest person there. Like that's how it goes. You're learning. And if you're not willing to go through that process of being the dumbest person in the room, you'll never be the smartest person in the room with that skill or whatever. So it's interesting to watch people and see how they're not willing to be uncomfortable and how they run. And I guess that's the thing I've been thinking about and been a part of lately is like starting a business. It's something that we've been going through, and it's something that's been so hard for me. It was crazy difficult for me, the first business I had. This one's been difficult too, and it's because I'm there and I'm making mistakes, and I'm in front of a group of people that collectively they'll know more than me. I mean, it's just the way it goes. So I'm putting myself in front of them going like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And they're like, that's so stupid, why didn't you know that's not a great thing to do? And it's like, oh, well, I didn't know. I don't know everything. And so you just look like an idiot, and that's painful. That's super painful. But it's what you do when you start up a business. It's you get vulnerable, you show everybody what you're doing, and then you get the crap kicked out of you, and then you learn, and then you get the crap kicked out of you, and you learn, and the next thing you know, you're on an expert level because you've done all these things and you've honed your skills. But it's interesting to watch all these people, and they're like, oh, well, here's how you should do things, here's how you should run your business, and I could totally do your business if I wanted to, but I just don't want to. And then it's like I've been watching these people, and then they try to start a business or something, and then they choke, and it's like, oh well, this is interesting. Like, you don't like
Yeah.
the pain now that it's in your arena,
Yeah.
and you don't know how to do anything when you knew how to do everything when it was my business. But as I was telling you about that Alex Hormozy guy or whatever, and his awesome quote, was poor people will stay poor because they don't want to upset the other poor people. And it's hilarious. We've
Yeah.
we've been talking about that because
Yeah.
if you are poor and you're like, I'm going to do something with my life, and then you put yourself out there and you're vulnerable, and everybody goes, "You're so stupid," and then you go, "Well, I don't like this. I'm going to get out of this situation, and I'm going to go back to the safe zone and just be poor with the rest of those guys." And they're like, "Hell yeah, be poor with us. Don't ever try to excel again." And it's like Joe Rogan says, like, do you think Michael Jordan's on Facebook? And he's like, that's so stupid. You're an idiot. Like, Michael Jordan doesn't do that because he knows what it takes. He knows what it takes to be vulnerable and be a champion and how to try hard. And I guarantee somebody like that is like, dude, like, your stuff sucks, but keep trying. Like, he wouldn't say your stuff sucks, but he's like, keep trying, like, go, like, you better people.
You have to look back in history too, at like Nikolai Tesla, all these great people who had great ideas and they were completely like made fun of.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it says a lot. Like, geniuses have been tormented by people.
Yeah. Great ideas.
I mean, but well before their time ideas
Yeah.
that are like so like profound.
Yeah, it's what we've talked about is like this group think and like how come nobody wants you to be successful? I mean, there are people, of course. There's some great people to follow and get advice, but how come everybody just wants to tell you how stupid you are? And I guess
It is to keep you at their level. They don't, we were kind of talking about that today. Anytime you're trying to better yourself, there is a group of people who are like, he needs to stay here with me because this is making me extremely uncomfortable. The he it's like that lady where she was like, my husband doesn't want to be Jewish anymore. It's almost the same as that. It's like you were at this level with this person, making them feel extremely comfortable. Then you start to like expand and grow, and they're like, no, this sucks. You're stupid. What do you mean you're gonna run? You can't run that far. You're gonna you're gonna quit in 2 weeks. They just want to keep you. You need to be Jewish here with me. This is where I'm comfortable with you being Jewish.
yeah. So everybody that doesn't know, there was a Jewish couple, and the guy decided not to be Jewish anymore, and the lady was super concerned about him not being Jewish with her.
Yeah, because they shared that together, and they were no longer going to be sharing it together, and she was distraught. And change is hard. However, if your husband wants to expand his spirituality, atheism, whatever he's looking to like get into, I think it needs to be supported. Like people's beliefs are their beliefs. But yeah.
Well, don't you think like if somebody is on Facebook and they're like, your ideas are stupid, your product's stupid, is it they want to keep you at their level, or is it that if you do, I don't know if that feels right either, but if you do succeed, then it makes them look at themselves and wonder why they're behind you?
The Facebook thing to me is even, I mean, I think it's even less involved than that. I was kind of speaking of people who know you.
Yeah.
Like friendships or yeah. So I wouldn't think that Facebook people, I think they're disgusted with themselves and their lives.
I thought you were going to say disgusting, and I was like, yeah, they are.
Well, and that, I mean, anyone who's perusing other people's Facebooks and demoralizing them or even leaving negative comments, to me, they have some wounds and problems and some things to work out on themselves, but they're unable to do that. They're a disgusting human being that can't look at themselves, so they're perusing and making people feel shitty or trying to.
Do you think this is, I guess this is how I see it. Do you think like Facebook is social media, the internet is like, it's like you get lost in the metaverse basically, right? Like you're in the matrix, or like you're gone.
You're definitely
You're mentally
on another plane of existence.
Yeah, so it's like if somebody is in the same room and I'm like, hey Carol, do you want some water? And I get no response. I'm like, Carol, hey Carol, and then I go over there and you're like, flipping through TikTok. You're in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to call it meditation, but it's what would you call it?
I would call it brainwashing, in all honesty.
Brainwashing, or like you're just gone.
Entranced, maybe.
Okay, entranced, yeah. That's more what I'm looking for. Like you have a spell over you. You're not here.
Yes.
But I think that's the interesting thing is like, so if you're in this trance and you're in a spell and you're gone, isn't it kind of interesting that you're interacting with other people while you're gone? Like if you think about that, it's kind of like aren't you gone enough? Aren't you kind of, okay, so like, I know I'm kind of spurting off here, but it'll hopefully make sense. This is a horrible thing to admit or talk about, but whatever. I used to go drink at bars a lot, and I like when I drank, I got wasted, and I would drive home. You know what I mean? And you wake up in the morning or whatever, and like you wake up and like your foot's in the door jam, and you're on the ground, and you're like never made it to the bed. Like
you're not the only one that's done that.
You're passed out, but it's like, and you're like, holy shit, I drove.
How the fuck did I get home?
How did I get home?
Yeah.
How did I get home? Well, it's because autopilot, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of where you're at on Facebook is autopilot. Who is talking while you're on Facebook? Is it you, or is it your subconscious talking? Is it the same person that's driving you home when you're drunk? Is that same person that's driving you home when you're drunk the same person that's commenting on Facebook? You know what I mean? Is it you? Are you commenting on Facebook, or is it your subconscious? I don't know, but it's kind of an interesting thought.
I think it would depend who you are.
But I guess I'm getting at like all these people with like, you're stupid. Like, who's talking? Is that your subconscious? Like, because if you meet half these people, a lot of them are decent people. I mean, I think.
Really?
I've been to a lot of. I mean, I used to run my business.
You've met people who were talking down to you?
Oh, it was such a common thing. That's actually the best thing I ever did for my business, is because on Facebook, I never used to travel around for business and meet people, and I had this totally different relationship with everybody. And so as soon as I started traveling, and I'd be like, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Eric," and you'd be like, "Oh, my name's Tony." "Hey, Tony, yeah, I know who you are, man. We've talked a lot of times." And you talk back and forth. You actually like have a relationship with these people, and that completely changes. So when I go home and I talk to these same people, it used to be like, "Well, screw you, Tony. Well, screw you, Eric," and it turned into like, "Well, I actually know this guy now, and I've talked to this guy, and I can see his face, and I can see his gestures and stuff, and I can understand he's not being a dick." And I think that's a lot of what we see on Facebook is we just assume that person's saying the worst and being mean and like making things up, kind of.
Are you making it up if someone says your product is stupid? I'm getting confused. Like, if you tell someone their product is stupid,
well,
I don't think you're making anything up.
No, if you're being that obvious, there's some people that are obviously being jerks. But I can tell you 100%, this is like one of my biggest problems in life, is that I do make up that people are being mean to me when they're not, especially on Facebook.
So you're talking about something else. Like, you thought you were being, like someone was being mean to you and they weren't.
I think that happens a lot on both sides on Facebook. And I think you can read, like I say, if somebody's like, your stuff sucks, like, well, I mean, that's kind of obvious. But I think you can read into things and be like, whoa, why is that guy being mean? And then you come to find out, you're like, oh, I mean, he was just asking a question, or he wasn't being judgmental, or like anything I took him, but that was all my imagination that kind of made that up. So I don't know. But anyway, like going out and meeting people drastically changed my business because, and I've been told this a lot, when I'm on Facebook, people think I'm a person. And then when they meet me, they're like, you're really that person? It's just the way I come across when I type. I mean, I say the wrong things, or I don't know. But why did we start talking about this? Oh, just because people are mean. Or are they? And it's like the subconscious, like who's talking? It's all an interesting thought, I guess, because like if you think about like what if it is your subconscious talking on Facebook? You know how like they'd find like you'd get like a prisoner of war, and they'd say they'd give them like some truth drugs, and then they'd, is that like what kind of Facebook could be? Is it could like put you in this subconscious metaverse state, and then you're saying things you wouldn't normally say. Think about people going on Facebook and they're putting pictures of their family, You know, they're talking about their wedding anniversaries, how they met their wife like 20 years. So much personal information. Like, but this is what we were talking about. But you don't want people to know your license plate number. You know what I mean? Like, you got pictures of your house, you got pictures of your kids,
Yeah.
you got all this super insanely personal information, but you don't want somebody to look up your license plate.
Yeah.
You know, or like your phone number. You don't want anybody to know your phone number. But whatever, you're in a swimsuit on Facebook for the whole world to see. Like, I don't know, but I'm just wondering, you know, it's like it's an interesting thought to think about you being in a trance and like a truth serum, like you're giving away all this information for everybody in the whole world to know. And like, do you realize that? Because you know, a lot of people are addicted to just giving away everything they have all day in life.
Oh, on Facebook?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Instagram.
I don't give it much attention anymore.
Yeah, you're over it.
Yeah. I mean, even saying that, I mean, my Facebook and Instagram are pretty positive places to be.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we mentioned that last time, but I think that's an awesome gift that you gave to me. As I started watching you and the people you follow, and I started following a couple people that you do, and then all of a sudden everything in my Facebook started changing positive. Now I see multiple positive things a day, and it's like it's really changed me. Pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, I just believe in surrounding yourself with like positive people, as positive as possible.
Yeah,
But I'm glad that's changed things for you a bit.
which I guess if you're talking about the subject of making things hard, I guess that would be an example of how not making things hard is beneficial. Some things you don't want hard.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what you surround yourself with and focus on matters.
So make your life as easy as possible mentally. Well, not mentally. How would you say that? Like,
Well, you're talking about following Alex Hermosi and Rob Dyrdek, who like are going to support you and tell you if anything's going badly in your life, you got this. Here are some ways you can tackle it. These are mindsets you can have about it. So it's setting you up to handle difficult situations with the best mindset possible.
yeah, I was just trying to like sum everything up as far as you want to make your life as hard as possible when it comes to like challenges.
You want to keep challenging yourself, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but then you want to make it as easy as you can on yourself when it comes to being around supportive things.
Support, streamlining things like getting gas before you get to a half a tank, making sure that you have like cords to plug in your phone. I mean, yeah, there's things you want to make easy, so tackling the hard things isn't like chaos.
I'm just gonna say the half tank of gas thing.
That's my thing. I wasn't
Yeah,
like pressing it on everybody else.
yeah. So you have a thing where you get to a half tank of gas and you're getting gas just in case the apocalypse happens right then and there, and you don't
No.
have time to go. Oh, it just has to do with your being late thing. You never want to be
It
late.
has to do with like if I don't want to be like have to go get gas if I'm in a hurry to go do something. So that's one less thing I have to worry about if I got a call and they were like, "Carol, can you come to work?" Or if my dad called me and he's like, "I really need your help. I need a ride today. I need to be there at 1." That's just one less thing. I have a full tank of gas.
You're like, I got a full tank of gas. I'll be there
I
at
don't
1.
have to stop and get gas.
Right. Okay. It's an interesting thing. But what else you got for this? I guess I was going to say too. I think we kind of went over it, but it's when things are difficult. I think that's a really awesome place to be, even though you don't want to be there. And I was even trying to think of some examples, and I was thinking about when life is hard. Starting a business it sucks. It's a great place because it makes you a better person and it makes you grow. It points out a business especially points out all the negatives in your life. If you don't know how to do this, don't know how to do that, or you're insecure, whatever, it drags them all out, and you've got to fix them. So if you run away from that, then you never fix any of that. But if you really dive into it and you try to address all these things, then you can make yourself a better person. But I was even thinking about, like, if you're in a relationship and you split up with somebody, like, that's hard. But leaving somebody is hard. Being left, I've never had it happen, but I'm sure that's pretty hard. But I was thinking, like, how awesome is your life if you end up leaving somebody that's not good for you? That's so hard, but it's like amazing once you're over that hill of breaking up with somebody. Like, oh my gosh, you're like, the person was toxic, like I had to get away. But even being broken up with has got to be a good thing for you too, right?
I think so. To me, and I know it's hard to see this sometimes, but you have a new opportunity, like, to work on some things that you learned about yourself in this relationship, so you can be in a better relationship next time, and understand that although if you were in love with this person and it may feel like you've lost your love, to actually realize if someone left you, they weren't your person, because
Yeah,
your person isn't going to leave you.
yeah. But that's kind of interesting too, because if somebody breaks up with you and you're not willing to face the uncomfortableness of addressing why they broke up with you, how bad can that go?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really common, especially if you get broken up with, to dive directly into distractions like alcohol, or that's why I haven't been broken up with either, but when I left my husband, when I left Jeremy, that's one thing. Like, I did 90 days no alcohol. Just deal with it, like, sit in the thoughts, sit in the discomfort, the fear of whatever you're afraid of, not finding someone, whatever you're going through, and grow from that fucking terrible feeling, whatever it is.
Well, do you think you put thought into, okay, I was just in this relationship that I didn't like. How do I fix that?
Both times, absolutely. Like with Dan, I sought out a therapist immediately, and that was the thing I told her is I want to learn how never to get in that situation again. I believe Dan, or my ex-husband, was a borderline personality disorder narcissist person that was abusive, and I never wanted to experience that again. So there went that journey of learning how not to get there. And then with Jeremy, as you know, I sought out Matthew Hussey, which, yeah, continuing to grow and learn of how to have a healthier relationship.
Matthew Hussey did what for you?
Well, firstly, when I first found him, I was like, oh my God, someone who fucking gets it. Like, this exists in the world, which
What exists?
someone who understands relationships, understands that both people need to be able to learn things from each other's perspectives, give, take, just very knowledgeable about dating and
He also
red
points out,
flags and building a foundation.
but he
And
also points out a lot of, like, hey, you are probably the problem here, right? Like instead of being, I mean, that's what I've seen that's like super helpful. And I think what a lot of people need, again, but people don't want to face it, is, hey, you thought you just had a bad relationship and you're wondering why every guy in the world's messed up. Well, it might be because you are choosing guys that are messed up.
Yeah.
It's not guys in the world, it's you.
Yeah.
It's you. And, you know, it's like my friend Sean says, is you need to stop pointing the finger and pull the thumb back, point to yourself.
I think we talk about that all the time, is there's no one to blame. You got to take responsibility for where you're at. And absolutely, you need to figure your shit out why you're picking these people.
But it's the conversation we're having tonight is that's hard.
Yeah.
And so people are not willing to do that. And so they find this coping device, which is called denial. And they go, you know, I'm just not going to think about this.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's super easy to distract yourself with shopping, gambling, drinking, TV, binge, whatever.
Well, you know, we were watching the Andre the Giant documentary. They were talking to Vince McMahon. They were interviewing him. And they said, you know, when's the last time you talked to Andre the Giant? Do you remember the last time you talked to him? He's like, no. And they're like, well, how do you feel about all this? And he's like, I have ways of coping with things, and I get rid of things very easily. And I don't get emotional about things. And I'm like, that's disassociating. That's not, but that's exactly what we're talking about. Is he's basically saying, I have a way of getting rid of things, not thinking about them. You're not dealing with feelings because you're not wanting to deal with the pain that you screwed Andre the Giant over and you didn't leave him. He died without you guys being on good terms, and you're a bad person. And so instead of thinking about that, changing your life, treating other people different, having good relationships, bettering your life, you just go, oh, well, I have a great way of coping with this, and it's called I ignore everything. And I just move on like a zombie. I don't want to deal with the pain.
Yeah, well, I understand that to a degree. I used to come from like an aspect of thinking that being badass was not feeling. So I understand, not the thing of mistreating people. I wasn't to that degree, but I certainly can relate to why and how you could become that person. But the ironic thing is the more badass thing is actually feeling and being vulnerable and dealing with these things that are hard to look at.
Well, because I think you've got to look at the outcome. And I think you look at Vince McMahon and you go, okay, well, he just disassociates and he doesn't think about it and he moves on. But just bringing up Andre the Giant made him emotional. He started crying, right? So, but this is one person. So I'm assuming he's got many, many, many more people like that. So he's got a lot of pain inside that he chooses to ignore. That's the problem, is you got to look at the outcome. You got to say, well, how the way I'm dealing with life, what gives me the outcome? When I die, I'm probably going to be all tore up because I had bad relationships with so many people.
Well, I think what we understand more today too is holding in that bad energy is very unhealthy for us. And all those things that you're not dealing with can come out in your health. And so there's also that to think about.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's what I'm saying, is I think you got to think of like the outcome, and by not dealing with these feelings and running from this fear and this pain, what is going to be outcome? How am I going to feel? You know, and I think to me, like, I'm sure you understand it, so maybe it doesn't make as much sense to you, but a higher level of dealing with these sort of things is kind of like what we've been talking about lately, is when you live your day-to-day life, and I'm thinking about, oh, this person said something to me and like, screw them. And, you know, and so it's like dealing with that, like overthinking it. basically, and like bring it into your life. But like, I think this is what I'm saying is a higher level of that. You go, I am not going to think about this. I'm going to think about making money, or I'm going to think about how I'm going to make my relationships better. Like you change your way of thinking. Does that make sense? Like Vince McMahon is like, I'm not going to think about this. It's too painful. But then there's like another version of that where you go through your daily life torturing yourself over stupid thoughts that you don't need to, and you shift your thinking that way. So it's what I'm saying is it's kind of like a higher level of thinking about it, and kind of the same thing but not the same thing. If that made any sense.
I'm lost. I don't.
I'm just saying there's a level that you should be thinking about things, but once you've processed it, what is the outcome, right?
Yeah.
Is thinking about this going to help me?
Yeah.
Vince McMahon should have been like, yeah, maybe I need to figure out Andre the Giant and my relationship, and I need to come to terms that I did the wrong thing with him, and I left, or he left me in a bad spot, and I need to fix this in my life. But Vince McMahon maybe doesn't need to think about like some guy stole money from him a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And so he needs to disassociate from this guy stole money from me a couple months ago. I can't do anything about it now.
Yeah.
And think about how do I make wrestling a better place?
Yeah, there's things you shouldn't, or I don't, not you shouldn't. People can do whatever they want that I don't entertain. Like, I won't even go down that road because you can follow rabbit holes that lead you to a dark place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the outcome?
Yeah.
What is the outcome? But I think that's probably that's what I'm saying. I think it's kind of a higher level of thinking that I don't think you can just go, okay, well, what's the outcome if I think about this? I think you've got to do a lot of work on yourself to. I'm saying it's like a higher level of understanding.
For sure.
I think a lot of people don't even. Like I was talking to my son, and he was telling me he didn't feel too good, and I said, "Well, why don't you feel good?" And it's like he's 10, and I'm sitting there going, like, I understand, but he doesn't know why he doesn't feel good. He doesn't know when he started not feeling good. He doesn't know anything about it. He just knows all of a sudden, like, what the hell's going on? I don't feel good. And it's so crazy. But I mean, I remember I was probably 30 when I started thinking about like, oh, I don't feel good. Why don't I feel good? And it would take me a long time to figure out why I'm not. I mean, I still do it today. Like, I don't feel good. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm just way faster at it now. Like, oh, I don't feel good because I had an interaction with somebody at the store, and that's still lingering for a couple hours. Like it changes the way I feel, even if it was like a 2-minute interaction.
Yeah.
Digital coupons or something messing me up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's really hard, and I think that's something a lot of people don't do is think about how am I feeling right now and what is the source of why I feel this way. And man, that's to me that's what I'm saying. That's how I started out, like on my journey is how do I feel and why do I feel this way, and how do I get to the point where I never feel this way again? How do I fix this?
Yeah.
So it's been a long road, but again, my son, I was with him yesterday, and I told you he threw an apple and it hit my car, and I wasn't too happy for about 10 seconds, and that affected him. I just told him, I said, why aren't you need to like change not being happy right now and just be happy. I go, because you're upset that you upset me, and I'm not upset anymore. So there's no reason for you to be upset. And I go, I know you don't understand this at 10 years old, but there are only so many minutes remaining in your life. And at some point, you're going to turn around and you're going to realize that you wasted however many of those minutes on not being happy. I think you should focus on how do I make myself happy for as many of those minutes as I've got left. So I don't know, but that's what I told him. And I'm like, why aren't you just happy? There's just no reason to not be happy. And I don't think that's not a thought for a lot of people. And it's like, why would you choose to be sad?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about that, right? What you focus on in your day. I mean, the most important thing in my day is how can I make myself as happy as possible? And if I'm being grumpy about something, I have to look at that and go like, is this something that I need to be, is it a rabbit hole or do I need to deal with something?
Yeah. I mean, how long did it take you to get there? Long time?
Yeah, I would say um 45 years.
Really? You've been working on that for 45 years?
Well, that's when I mean, I started at 45 till now,
Oh, so
so
5 years.
5 years.
Oh, I've been working on it for 15, I think. I think when I was 30 is when I started working on why don't I feel good and how do I fix this?
I don't know if you know this about me, but I've always been pretty upbeat and
You're lucky.
yeah, I feel good. I've felt good most of my life.
Yeah, that's amazing because that's why I started it because I was 30 and I had felt like crap. I mean, all but probably 2 or 3 years of my life. Like angry, depressed, like a bunch of issues. And it was actually interesting. And you know how like if you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, if you go through the program and everything, you become a sponsor, right? Do you know why you become a sponsor?
To keep you in line, I guess.
No, it's to because when you're a sponsor, that's when you actually help yourself the most. Because if I just went through AA and you're brand new and I'm your sponsor, then you start going like, oh, I want to drink, and I have to think about how to tell you not to drink. Which when I do that, it tells me how not to drink. So by helping you, I help me.
Yeah.
Right? That makes sense. So it's like one of the most helpful things you can do is to try to help somebody else, and then it makes you like because it takes away that defensiveness of like I don't do that or the denial. I don't do it, and you're like, oh well, shit. I'm giving Carol this advice, and I kind of need to take this myself. So that's why there's a sponsor thing. Anyway, I had a girlfriend that was amazingly messed up, and I wanted the relationship to work out so much that I tried to help her be happy. So it was kind of like being an AA sponsor. I tried so hard to do things to get her to change the way she lived and to be happy that I was like, oh shit. Like, and I looked at myself, and that's when I started going like, oh, well, how do I feel right now? And our relationship didn't work out, obviously, but um, it really slapped me in the face about happiness and what I needed to do and it made me realize how unhappy I was because I saw her and it reflected back on me, and I was like, oh, super interesting.
My journey actually started 28 to 32 but mine was more like I was happy personally, but I did not like my relationship. I wasn't happy in my relationship. And this was where I was like, okay, if I want a relationship to change, it like I had some epiphany one day that it started with me. Like I'm like, if I want a relationship that has all these things in it, I need to be able to be that person, and I'm not that person right now. So then I just started like making a list of how I could become this person and then started doing all those things.
Yeah, so that's interesting because you were happy. Tell me if this is right. You were happy, but
It was
you
relatively positive. I wasn't depressed or sad. I wouldn't say I was because I wasn't happy in my relationship, but I would do things like I was going to college and working towards a career of becoming a manager. I mean, these things were fulfilling to me, and I found happiness in them.
Okay, so see if I can figure this out, because this is kind of interesting. Because I tried to be happy because I knew that I was unhappy, and I knew I had to find happiness for myself. And it didn't occur to me that I couldn't have a great relationship without me being happy first. That my main intent was me to be happy. And then through my journey of happiness, I figured out, oh, if I'm happy, then I'll find somebody and be happy, but it comes with me first. But you are kind of saying that was the opposite, where you were happy, but you wanted to be in a happy relationship. But the thing that kind of makes me go, is if you were already happy, then why weren't you in a happy relationship? What was it that was drawing you to an unhappy relationship?
I mean, I believe I was addicted to this type of person in my life. Like, because of my mom and my sister, I didn't know that other people existed really. So, like, when you're raised around narcissistic people, I mean, you're attracted to narcissistic people. There were things, I had worthiness problems for sure, but I mean, like, I wasn't depressed, I wasn't sad. I enjoyed my career, I enjoyed running, exercising. Like, I was a relatively upbeat person. There was work to be done. Like, I had worthiness problems, like what I was worthy of. But I mean, you couldn't have told me that then. I didn't know I had these issues.
It's interesting because I've never thought about that. I have never thought about that. I've never thought about somebody being considering themselves a happy person, but then putting themselves in an unhappy situation. I've never thought about that ever. But let me ask you this: Do you think that there were bigger issues than you even realized because you were in that situation over and over with relationships? Because you know as well as I do that happiness attracts happiness, and chaos,
Yeah.
it's like you're attracting like things. But how could you be happy and attract super unhappy things? Do you think that maybe you thought you were happy, which, I don't know the difference, but is there, I'm just saying, is there a possibility that you were a little more messed up than you even realized because you were attracting those things?
I
Does that
mean,
make
I
sense?
think you're taking the, I'm saying that, like, I wasn't moping around or in the molly grubs, that I didn't have issues, which I
So
think
there's
you're,
plenty of chaos.
yes, for sure.
Okay.
But I was,
Happy chaos.
I mean, I was enjoying my career, my children, my exercising, going to college. Like, I wasn't walking around depressed, was what I was getting at. Like, I wasn't an unhappy, miserable person.
So this is kind of interesting to me right now because we were talking earlier today, and I had this question about when men get depressed, do men just get quiet and weak? And then I asked, if when women get depressed, do they just get unhappy and angry and loud? And it kind of makes me wonder, like what you're talking about is like maybe you weren't completely unhappy, but you have these other emotions where you're like not sad and quiet and weak, depressed, but maybe you weren't completely happy, and so it kind of does this thing. Like it's weird because it's like it's almost like you have to have the energy to be angry and loud. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying that's what you were, but like me, I'm explaining almost my whole life like I was like sad and weak and depressed, Do you think there's any truth to that, where you are saying like I wasn't really unhappy, but there was plenty of like I was angry and like that kind of. I mean, does that make sense or no?
I mean, I don't think you're fully like understanding that a person can still be a zombie and relatively like I had things to work on for sure. 28, 30, I started working on them. I can't remember, like it's within that 2 years. I when I tell you like I wasn't sad, I was living a fulfilling life in a job. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't walking around upset. I mean, I enjoyed things. So I think this is where the confusion is. I certainly had a miserable relationship. So, in that sense, I had plenty of issues that needed to be worked on. Because, yes, I think you're taking it as, oh, I had no problems or issues
Oh
that,
no, not at all.
yeah, because it sounds like it.
Oh no, that's not what I'm saying at all. Not even a little bit. I'm saying you had plenty of issues,
For sure.
but a woman's mind deals with it differently. Is what I'm wondering. You had plenty of issues, but you're kind of like I'm fine, but I've got a lot of bullshit going on. You know what I mean? Like where a man can be like, I am not fine, and I have a ton of bullshit in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I was seeking out enjoyment in fulfillingness in other ways, like through education and like, I mean, I was finding happiness through those things.
Yeah, and I'm super curious because I don't think that works for men. I think men, if they're not happy, it's just I just want to lay down and cry. Where it seems like if women aren't happy, they've got some weird energy, like somehow.
Yeah, well, there's kids you have to raise. There's shit that needs to be done. I mean, there's no time to like wallow in it.
Yeah, I don't. I've always found time when I'm depressed to wallow in it. But it's kind of interesting. It's kind of like sex, right? Like when a man has an orgasm, he's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna take a nap," and the woman's like, "Okay, well, watch out and make sure that no predators come and eat us. How you doing? You sleepy? Yeah, okay, that was fun. I enjoyed sex." And it's like, listen, woman, like I just had an orgasm. You know what I mean? But it's like women. It just makes me wonder. I'm gonna have to pay attention to because that's what I was saying in the Pacific Northwest. All these women up here are angry, and where do you find the energy to be angry when when you're angry? You know, when you're angry or like you're upset, like I don't have any energy to give. I have none to give. And so it's so weird that you see these women that are unhappy and putting out all this energy through anger. But then you look at the men they're with and they're upset too, but they're just like, oh, I just want to take a nap. Like I'm so tired. It isn't, I don't know. Am I just making
Yeah,
this up?
I mean, no, I don't get tired when I'm angry, for sure. And I can't really speak on the depressed thing because I mean, I guess I just went through that menopause thing, and I mean, that's the closest thing to depressed I've come to. I just don't think I can compare that to what you're talking about. But no, I don't experience. I don't know. I don't know if it's an entire women thing or if it's me, but I don't
Yeah.
get tired or I mean, I don't even think you could gender that because I've known girls who can't get out of bed when they're sad.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's 100% thing. I just think it's maybe a majority thing. Like I think
Maybe.
there's a lot of men up here that are angry and they'll scream at you and stuff too. You know, I mean that's a thing. But I think as a whole, I think men up here are sad and weak, where I think a whole up here, women are sad and angry. I just think it's a gender thing. Like I think it's just got to be the way we react to sadness or things not going our way. I wish I got some energy if I got sad. That'd be awesome. Even if it was anger, I'd be like, oh, I feel great compared to just being like weak and just.
I get pumped when I get angry.
Well, and that's why I don't think angry is actually the right word, because if I'm angry, I do too.
Yeah.
But let's call it sadness.
Yeah.
Like like being sad and getting energy to be angry, it just makes no sense to me. Like if I'm sad, like if our relationship isn't going well, the effort it would take to nag you and beat you down and talk down to you is so much energy. Like I just don't want to do anything if our relationship's not going good. But for some reason, women find this in themselves to find the energy to nag and beat their husbands down, tell them how bad of a husband they are, and like where do you find this energy? Like what's happening here? You know what I mean? Like
no, I don't know what you mean.
I know you don't know what I mean, but you've seen it. You've looked around, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think like what I've been seeing is just like that's their relationship. I don't even think it's like when it's not going well. I think that that's just what these men are living with constantly.
Oh, well, yeah. But I think it's a stereotype that women nag. Where do you find the effort to nag? Not you, but women. Where do women find effort to nag? Like, that's a lot of effort. Like, to sit there and be all over a guy all day about mowing the lawn or whatever you're going to talk about, that's a lot of effort.
I think it's very controlling to nag. And I think they feel out of control and they're trying to control the situation.
But yeah, a Karen. Like, where does a Karen get all the energy? If I wanted to be a Karen, I couldn't. Like,
Yeah.
so much energy. I don't have the energy to control people like that. I have enough problems controlling my own life. I don't need to control yours
I just
either.
don't have a desire to get that involved.
So this is the same thing I'm talking about. It's the same thing I'm talking about. Where does Karen get the energy? She's not happy. Where does she get the energy to put this much effort into controlling people and nagging people and being angry? Where does that come from?
I mean, I think you might be onto something because we're vastly different, men and women. And I don't know, for me, when I was in this marriage that was not great, and although that was a source of like, I mean, I wouldn't say I was sad about it because I had children that I had to take care of and a house I had to run, and there was just no time to get sad about it.
I don't know. I mean, like I think about I was in the medical dumps with thyroid and all that stuff when I was running my business, and I told you I was working 16 hours a day,
That's
drinking
different.
Mountain Dew. Well, I'm just saying the point though is like I was busy, like you're explaining busy, but you want to talk about like sadness and tired. And
Yeah,
weak
that's
and,
different because I just kind of went through that. That was like nothing I've ever experienced. That is like unexplainable.
That's the same way I feel if I'm not happy about things.
Yeah, that's intense.
It is intense. Like even right now when I've got this cold, that's how I feel. It's just like, blah. Like I'm sure as shit not going to go over to the neighbor's house and tell him to mow his lawn.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Where does that come from? Like, oh, I can't even get out of bed. I'm so sick. Hey, your lawn looks like shit. You need to mow your lawn, asshole. Like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And listen, before anybody like, yeah, there's like Bob or Billy or whoever, whatever his name is, the opposite of Karen. There are men versions too, for sure. But I'm just saying for every Bob, there's 10 Karens. I'm not saying it's every woman. I'm not saying it's no men. There's definitely both sexes have their Karens and Bobs. But for some reason, I don't know how angry, tired women find all this energy. That's all I'm saying. And then men are the opposite, where we just slow down and just, please, somebody leave me alone. Like, quit nagging me. That's where we go when we get tired, It's just interesting to me to think about. And I'm just saying, like, white male privilege does not apply here because it's female privilege. I'd way more be naggy than tired and beat down.
That's a
For
privilege?
Sure. Yes, it's a female privilege.
To nag?
To have energy when you're feeling like crap. Yes. Because I would love to have even negative energy when I feel like crap. That would be great.
I mean, I think women might kind of argue with you when you like talk about privilege because they're going to have to deal with a certain time of month that they are like basically missing days of their lives depending on how their cycle is. But mine was pretty miserable, and like it takes a week out of your life.
I'm not saying there's no male privilege. I got male privilege to not have to go through your cycle. But there's female privilege. There's privileges on both sides of the fence.
For sure.
There's male privilege, there's female privilege, there's white privilege.
I was just saying there are lack of energy things that we have for sure.
Yeah. I don't want to beat it at a horse. I think I said what I needed to say. I'm just saying it's an interesting thought to think about how we
process things differently or handle things differently.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I mean, we're definitely experiencing two different realities, I think, when it comes to male and female, with energies and all sorts of things.
Well, but I think that's what makes men and women so amazing, is because we are so opposite that we often complement each other. Yeah. And in this case, it's too bad that, somebody's picking on the other, but I think in most cases there's compliments. Like I'm saying, like if I have an orgasm and you're like, I'll watch out for lions, whatever, while you sleep. I was like, well, that's really nice.
Bonus.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for
kill it too if it tries to attack us.
Yeah, don't wake me up. Yeah. So I don't know. It can be a beautiful thing, but it depends how you run your life, I guess.
Yeah, it depends on the people in the relationship for sure.
Yeah, again, if you're not running your life correctly, then it turns into a nagging person and a weak person.
Yeah, well, I think if you're nagging someone, I mean, you need to rethink your life. But also, if you're accepting someone nagging on you, you need to rethink your life.
Yeah.
Or not. They could be totally happy.
Could be totally oblivious.
Yes.
108. That was a long one.
Woo. We got involved in our conversation.
Talking about naggy women.
Karens.
Yeah.
Karens and Bobs.
Yeah. Okay. So we got a Facebook that's not doing too much, but you can stay in touch and check out our podcasts. Posting inspirational memes, trying to make your life better. Instagram, nothing going on that I know of. YouTube's going good. I haven't checked Spotify, but check all those out. Like and subscribe or not. Do whatever you want. We don't really care. We're not here to push anything. But if you want to support podcasts like this, then that's what you do.
Well said, babe.
Anything else? Okay. Well, actually, last time, I think we were guessing this was like, the last one was like episode like 13 or 12 or something.
I thought it was 18.
Oh, it was 18. So this should be 19. So we're almost to 20, which is double what everybody fails at, right? Or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
People usually quit at 10.
We're going to go way more than 20.
1,000.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for watching, and check out our other ones if you didn't get enough.